So you're thinking about making a move to Occoquan, Virginia, but you'd kind of like to know the pros and the cons of living in the area before you decide to commit to that big move? Well, in today's video, that's exactly what we're going to be covering. I'm going to be sharing the pros and the cons, the good and the bad, maybe even the ugly, of living in Occoquan, Virginia. And let's kick it off with the pros. First up is the historic charm of Occoquan. Occoquan is absolutely picturesque. If you are downtown in Occoquan, you have the gorgeous waterfront, you have beautifully preserved buildings, you have some cobblestone streets, and it really is just a charming place to call home. Next is the small town atmosphere. Occoquan is home to just over 1,000 people, so it really is a close-knit community. Residents often describe it as friendly and welcoming, and it's very normal to be strolling around in Occoquan, run into your neighbors and say hello, and people in general are just very friendly in the small town atmosphere. If this is your first time in the channel and you want to know everything there is to know about living, eating, sleeping, working, and playing in Northern Virginia, be sure to hit that subscribe button and tap that bell for notifications so that you'll never miss a video. Proximity to Washington, D.C. Occoquan is about 20 miles south of Washington, D.C., so very easy in terms of access to employment opportunities in the city. And even if you aren't working in DC, you're certainly nearby to be able to head into the city, enjoy the cultural attractions, the monuments, the museum, and the hustle and bustle of the city, while still enjoying that quieter suburban lifestyle in Occoquan. Next is historic sites and attractions. If you're a history buff, Occoquan will definitely be appealing whether you're living there or not. There's a lot of history in the area. In particular, the old mill in Occoquan really gives a look into the past and how the area used to be. And you'll also want to check out Occoquan Regional Park for historic buildings, the quaint shopping and dining. Occoquan is known for its variety of stores. You have boutiques, you have art galleries, you have small businesses, lots of different restaurants, some that are on the water with beautiful views. Residents really enjoy that close-knit community and being able to have easy access to shopping and dining. Last is the community events, and the town of Occoquan hosts multiple events throughout the year. They have festivals, they have parades, they have holiday events, and it really fosters that sense of community. There's always something going on in Occoquan. They even have trivia nights in the park, so there's no shortage of community events and things to do. So now that I've shared some of the wonderful things that come with being a resident of Occoquan, Virginia, I have to also share the cons. Like every other area, Occoquan does have its cons, although I will say the pros far outweigh the cons. First up is high cost of living. And overall, Occoquan is going to run you 34.6% higher than the overall national average. Housing is where it really kicks up a notch, and that's going to run you 98.6% higher than the national average. Groceries are also going to cost you a little bit more at 9.9% higher. And so is transportation, although not too bad. It's going to run you 2.6% higher than the national average. Con number 2 is commuting challenges. And although it's a big benefit that Occoquan is just about 20 miles outside of DC, really not too far, but with Northern Virginia traffic, commuting from Occoquan into the city can definitely be brutal. Traffic is very heavy here on 95 at peak commute times. So just something to keep in mind. It's a way of life here in Northern Virginia. And there are also options for public transportation if you don't want to deal with commuting in your car into the city. Next up is limited amenities. And while Occoquan does have that small town atmosphere and the close-knit community, which is a wonderful benefit, it does lack some of the amenities that you will find in larger cities. And if you're a resident of Occoquan, you will likely need to travel outside of the town for access to major retailers. But not to worry, it's not far at all. Woodbridge is just a stone's throw from Occoquan, so you definitely don't have to travel far to get the things that you need. Lorton is also just a few minutes away as well. Next is limited employment opportunities, and this goes hand in hand with limited amenities. One of the draws to Occoquan is it is that small town, but because it's a small town, you're likely going to need to commute outside of the area for work. Now, that may not be too far away, but it is something to keep in mind that it's not likely that you will be working in and living in Occoquan. Con number 5 is Occoquan is going to be car dependent. And while you absolutely can walk really every inch of Occoquan itself, in terms of getting around outside of the area, you're very likely going to need a car to access things for daily needs and heading to work. Public transportation is not too far away, and you do have very easy access and convenient access to major roadways. But within Occoquan itself, there's not a lot of public transportation options. So be prepared that you're likely going to need a car in order to navigate outside of the immediate Occoquan area. The last con is the seasonal tourism impact. And Occoquan is a tourist destination, and that can have a negative impact, especially during peak season for residents. You'll find increased traffic, parking may be tricky, there might be crowded public spaces, and it's just a way of life when you're in a tourist destination. So by no means is it, a deal breaker for most, but it is something to keep in mind when you're living in Occoquan. You want to be prepared for those peak tourism seasons and adjust your schedule accordingly. If you're looking for an absolutely beautiful, scenic, small town that's still in close proximity to the hustle and bustle of the city, Occoquan should definitely be on your list to check out. It truly is a beautiful place to call home. And if you haven't already checked it out, be sure to look at our Woodbridge vlog. Woodbridge is right next to Occoquan and can give you an idea of what surrounding areas have to offer.